Thank you so much, Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Today, I am honored to present my first thematic report to the Human Rights Council as the Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of human rights in the context of climate change. You also have before you the reports of the country visits to Honduras and the Philippines conducted by my predecessor, Mr. Ian Fry. My first thematic report brings together the multiple efforts in clarifying human rights issues and obligations in relation to climate change that were made by several special procedures and treaty bodies over the last 5 years. The report also reflects on the importance for protecting human rights of the advisory opinion of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea on states' obligations on climate change, which was issued in May this year. Just consider, if it was not for the heat absorbed by the ocean between 1971 and 2010, our atmosphere would be hotter by 36 degrees. My report illustrates the legal clarity and the practical guidance provided on human rights and climate change over the last 5 years in relation to mitigation, adaptation, just transition, climate finance, and loss and damage. I will stress some key actions that have been highlighted in the work that has been compiled in my report. In relation to mitigation, priority actions have been identified in the areas of fossil fuels, coal, energy efficiency, nature conservation and restoration, and food systems, on land and in the ocean. Fall solutions to climate change have also been identified. In terms of adaptation, immediate, accessible, and adequate actions on land and in the ocean have been called for to prepare and respond to both sudden extreme climate change-related events and to slow onset events. The need for local priorities and concerns to drive adaptation action has been underscored, as well as the need for global cooperation and resourcing. On the just transition, equitable access to the benefits and fair distribution of the burdens should shape our transition processes towards economic models that reduce inequalities and nurture well-being for people and the planet. Climate finance, in turn, needs to be sufficient and predictable to ensure protection of human rights, with priority setting and direct access for the most vulnerable. We also need sufficient safeguards and independent monitoring and redress to prevent repeating practices that have already led to human rights violations and ineffective climate action. Further, it is necessary to effectively prevent, minimize, and remedy loss and damage with sufficient and directly accessible finance on the basis of an understanding of the interlinked environmental, socio-cultural, and economic nature of loss and damage on land and in the ocean. The distinctive nature of all this guidance is that it contributes to identify where and how to ensure policy coherence in climate action and increase cooperation nationally and internationally, thereby revealing how we can achieve multiple sustainable development goals. The reason for the development of this guidance is the increasing and increasingly alarming body of evidence across sectors about the severe, pervasive, and unequal negative human rights impacts of climate change and the ineffective and harmful nature of some of our climate responses. After 30 years of climate action, these negative impacts have been experienced by individuals and communities in vulnerable situations and in vulnerable countries for more than a decade. And now they're increasingly being experienced by everyone on this planet. These impacts, however, remain experienced unequally due to the interconnected situations of vulnerability and multiple grounds for discrimination. Thanks to the work of international human rights processes over the past 5 years, we can now consider intersectionality in the context of climate change so that we can prevent more discriminatory impacts of climate change and of some response measures. And as a result, we can better protect everyone's human rights in the context of climate change. Read together, the guidance produced so far indicates how we can devise approaches to climate change that more effectively protect children, girls and women, indigenous peoples, minorities, peasants, pastoralists, small-scale fishers, people of African descent, persons with disabilities, persons with albinism, older persons, LGBTQI persons, migrants, internally displaced persons and receiving communities, and persons in situations of extreme poverty and armed conflict. The report, therefore, shows also how much work remains to be done in integrating international human rights law into climate action. First and foremost, it is essential to understand and practice international human rights standards not as an add-on to climate action, but as the how we take climate action. To that end, the report underscores that we should recognize the lived experiences of the human rights holders that have been most affected by climate change as distinctive and relevant sources of knowledge and expertise on climate change, on the same level as technical expertise. This, in turn, means that we must ensure genuine opportunities for human rights holders in situations of vulnerability to participate or to be appropriately represented in decision-making processes on climate change at all levels. States then need to take into account evidence and experiences on intersectionality in developing, implementing, funding, monitoring, and reviewing climate action. I am aware that this may appear daunting and perhaps unrealistic, even for the most well-resourced states. But we do not need to start from scratch in doing so. Rather, we can recognize and work with organizations, local, national, regional, and international, that can offer the evidence, the tools, and the know-how to help consider intersectionality in the context of climate change. Different communities of practice in civil society and in the research community, as well as different UN agencies and international organizations, can connect areas of work that are still disconnected from one another and that are still disconnected from climate experts and decision makers. As a technical expert myself, educated in the global north, I have experienced in the last 10 years, thanks to collaboration with colleagues in the global south, that connecting and learning from diverse experiences of persons, communities, and peoples from other regions, backgrounds, cultures, worldviews, and generations is possible, and that it is possible to meaningfully connect local experiences with national and global decision-making processes. It does take connecting a diverse range of natural and social sciences, as well as engaging with cultural heritage and arts, to learn the value of the voices of those that are usually left out, and to imagine new ways in which diverse understandings can lead to co-developing more effective and fairer pathways towards a safe climate. I am committed in implementing this mandate to work with a variety of communities of practice myself, to explore how we can together support intersectional and intergenerational dialogue and actions on climate change and human rights. I look forward to organizing regional consultations during the second half of 2024. And through those dialogues, we can already start connecting diverse insights and test approaches that can support implementation of existing international guidance and the identification of where more work is needed towards transformative action on climate change and human rights. Thank you.